Well, hello. Welcome to week 3 of Homemaker University. And I'm missing having you in my class this week. But at the same time, I I also want to apologize for not being ready this last week and getting things finished. Halloween and a couple of concerts all in one week just ended up being too much for me. So thank you so much for being patient and joining our class this week. This week is lesson 3. It is on efficient cleaning. And this is one of those nitty-gritty topics. We are going to talk a little bit about some principles as we have in the previous classes, but today is also very practical. As you can see, I'm in my apron, ready to go. I hope you all worked on your assignments from last week, which was making a weekly schedule and deciding what day you're going to do certain things. Now, before I start this, I do want to recognize that all mothers are busy. Some mothers are more busy with outside responsibilities than others, whether you work or go to school like I do. You may not have a lot of hours in a day. Please, please, always adapt these basic principles and ideas to fit your needs. If you need to simplify these things vastly, that is good. You should do it. Recognize your limits and remember to avoid perfectionism. So we reviewed our assignment for last week. Remember to make a schedule for your week. Today we're going to start by the idea of creating an ideal home space. Now again, this is why I mentioned some people have more time for this than others. I know there are some mothers, and this would be my ideal, but I haven't done it yet, would be to go away somewhere with your spouse or even by yourself, even just for a few hours, maybe in a quiet favorite place, and just sit and think about your ideal space in your home. Again, I recognize that we can't all do this. We can't all take a weekend getaway to some exotic island or even to the next town in a hotel room to do this. But we can get a few minutes of time, whether it's in the early morning hours or in the quiet of the evening after we've put children to bed. We can scrape out some time, even if it's 10 minutes in a car, to do a little bit of this. So do what you can. But I'm giving you the ideal scenario, okay? So what you want to do is you want to sit down, and I actually get this idea from Marie Kondo in her book, The Life-Changing Magic of Tidying Up. And she talks about thinking through your ideal space, what you would like to see, what would be your wonderful place, your little kind of heaven. And as you can see, I'm here in my office. Not everyone can have an office, I recognize that. My husband actually insisted that it's the smallest bedroom in our house, as an office for me when I started school. Actually, I was a few semesters in. And honestly, I think he was tired of me staying up till all hours of the night trying to finish homework. In the school program I'm in, a lot of assignments are due at midnight on different nights. And so I was racing against the clock to try and finish assignments or quizzes, and they would be due at midnight. And I was working in our bedroom, and that just wasn't working well for him. So that's why I have this little office. Now, it's not perfect. I probably have more in here than I would ideally like to have, but I do also surround myself with some things that make me smile, some things that make me feel good. In fact, my children like to come in here because it's quiet and peaceful. You can't really see on the camera, but the walls are actually a very faint, it's almost a pink. It's a very calming room for me, and it's a place where I can think. And so this is where I have this little microcosm of my ideal space. I have an oil diffuser in here that I put my favorite oils on, or I do candles also. I like I care about how it smells. So you use your five senses when you're thinking through this ideal space. Again, this is on paper. Okay, I'm not saying you need to tear your house apart and make your ideal space right now. Just sit down on paper and write down the five senses: seeing, hearing, smelling, maybe tasting, and that's kind of an iffy one, but touching and feeling how you want it to feel. So I did this, and this is a very simplified list that I made. This was recently. I've actually done this many times, and I think it's good to revisit it now and then to remind ourselves of what our ideal is. Of course, we're not going to live in our ideal all the time. That's not possible, because we live this very human, imperfect existence. But for me, I wrote down in my C, I wanted relaxing colors, that I needed a place that was calming. And in fact, in our last house we lived in, there was a color on the walls that I just loved. I didn't put it there, but we had bought the home and it was all over that house. And I found out what the color was, and I have taken it with me to this house and painted most of my walls that color. I also, for seeing, I put open spaces. I don't like a lot of clutter. I feel kind of stressed when there's a lot piled on surfaces or when there's a lot of furniture. Now this room, again, it's a tiny room, so you can see it's got a little more furniture than I would normally put in a space, but I'd like a place for my husband to sit or child to sit and come and talk to me. I have my keyboard. There's another desk next to me. This is also for schoolwork. I'm a music major, so there's some things I need to do with music. I also teach voice lessons in here. There's a cabinet in the corner that has our internet stuff in it. But anyway, also I like a lot of light. On this wall over here, I have some windows with some sheer drapes that I just love to let the light in. I am one that will go around the house and turn all the lights on. It drives my husband crazy. I don't like the dark. I like things light. So for hearing, I put calming music or classical music. One of my favorite sounds that I want to hear in my house are my children singing or laughing and talking to each other kindly. I love the sound of birds singing. Now we're moving into fall, and so there's going to be less of that. Our windows will be closing soon because we live in a cold climate. But that's something I love to hear. I love to open windows and just hear the sounds of outside when I can. One thing that I put for my smells are, I have a favorite herbal tea that's a chai flavor. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's very cinnamony, and I love that smell. Of course, the smell of cut grass or autumn leaves. I also like the smell of the flower lavender or lavender essential oil. Anything cinnamon. I love those candles that smell like baked goods, mostly because I can't eat baked goods, so I really like the smell of those. So some things I put down for taste were that there's clean air in my house. It doesn't have that funny smell, which kind of causes a funny taste in your mouth, you know. I like to have healthy food, so I put healthy food, a little comfort food maybe. We all have different comfort foods. Then for touch and feel, I put soft cushions and seats. For me, the perfect temperature, which is not too hot, not too cold, just right, and everyone's is different, of course. Another thing that I like that I put on my touch and feel were clean surfaces. There's almost nothing worse than touching surface like a light switch or other surface and it's sticky, where if you have children, you know that this is a frequent thing. So that's, again, this is the ideal. This is not perfect. So then what I do with this is I like to create Pinterest boards. I know some people use poster boards, or they go through magazines and cut out pictures. Sometimes you can just look at magazines to get some ideas. If you've been in someone's home or you have a friend, you can even ask them to take pictures if you love their space, just to give you some thoughts and some ideas on what your ideal home would look, feel, smell, sound, taste, and I already said feel, I guess. Anyway, sound like. So I want to give you that thought and open with that, but I want you to put that on the back burner. We're going to come back to that. It's a great idea, though, to have that vision in your mind when you begin your cleaning or your plans for cleaning or your plans for homemaking. And so just table that idea for a moment, but think, let that settle a bit. So the next thing on my list when it comes to efficient cleaning is I have often thought about this, and I have actually done several hours of research on the internet for this. But if you've ever stayed in a hotel, which very few people have, a hotel or a vacation home, what does it feel like? It's not cluttered, right? Now, some hotels are better than others, and I'm not talking about a luxury hotel. I'm just talking about a very practical, clean, tidy, small hotel room, or even a vacation home might have a little kitchen in it or something. And I did some research on how they take care of these rooms and these spaces. First of all, they have hundreds of hotel rooms, right? In many hotels, they have many, many, many rooms to take care of. They have a large staff that takes care of them, but all of that staff are given assignments. There's a plan of attack for every room. Every person has an assignment and they know what to do. In my research, I found that a lot of hotels expect each maid, now this is each maid that works at their hotel, to clean anywhere from 16 to 20 rooms a day. Now, if we think about our houses, of course, we don't all clean 24/7. Most of us don't have time for that. We have other things we need to do. But that is a lot. To me, that seems like, wow, that's a big amount. And they are very efficient, which is how they are able to accomplish this. They complete the cycles in each room. So they don't go from room to room, right? They don't go from room to room and do a little here and a little there, and then they get sidetracked, which is sometimes how we, at least I do as a homemaker, I get sidetracked very easily when I'm cleaning my home. So, or when I'm doing anything, actually, practically. But they stay on task because they need to get into a room and out of a room in a timely manner to prepare and clean that room for the next day's guests. Which, if you think about it, if they're doing that in the morning and there's a checkout time in the morning at the hotel, and they have to have that all the rooms done by a certain time so that people can then check in, they have to be efficient. They have to be quick, but they need to be thorough. I can only think of a few places where I've stayed, and I've stayed in some pretty cheap places, where the rooms were not clean. Usually, especially if it's a chain, the rooms are very clean, and that's something they really pride themselves on. So they finish before moving on to the next room. They complete the cycle that they are assigned in that room. Now, something that I've always thought about with hotel rooms is that I go to the bathroom, into the bathroom and look at the tub, and I think, how is this so clean? And then I remember, these rooms are cleaned thoroughly every single day. So it's not that we have to clean our whole house every day, but just think of how much easier it is to dust, for example. If you dusted that same area the day before, it's much simpler. I think of other kinds of buildings or businesses or religious places. They keep up on things and keep them tidy. Things don't get out of hand because they have a regular schedule. Okay, so something else that maids in hotels do is they always have supplies on hand. Now they have a cleaning caddy, and these cleaning caddies I think are amazing. They're on wheels. They have a little handle, they can push them around. All the cleaning supplies that a maid needs are on that caddy so that they are not running back and forth. Oh, I forgot the window cleaner. Oh, I forgot this and that. I need some more rags. Oh, I need some more towels to replace in the room. They have shelves on the underside that have all the towels and all the sheets and everything that they will need for their assigned rooms. Now, we don't all need a cart like this, But I know that for years I have used a cleaning caddy, which is just like a little plastic container with a handle. You can often find them at at regular stores. And I will put like a glass cleaner, my daily cleaner, spray bottle. I might put a toilet cleaner in there and maybe some deep scrubbing type cleaner. I will have some scrub brushes, some disinfecting wipes maybe, some different kinds of brushes, sponges, rags, whatever it is that you use. For me, I love the Mr. Clean Magic Erasers. I was a mother at a time before they were invented, and let me tell you, there were more than one room that I had to repaint because of little people and crayons, which is, with magic erasers, they just come right off. I love that. And no, this is not sponsored by Mr. Clean. I wish it was. So having your supplies, your favorite supplies on hand, we're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but just having them where you don't get sidetracked. Again, you're not sidetracked in a different direction going, oh, I forgot this, oh, I forgot that. You stock the caddy, and that's what you're going to take with you as you clean. Okay, now I went through and did, in my research with hotels, they have their checklist that they have their maids do. And one of the first things on the list was they called prepare for cleaning. Now, to me, as I watched and thought about this, I thought this is tidying. If you've heard of tidying, as of course, Marie Kondo, as I talked about earlier, she talks a lot about tidying. Tidying is different than cleaning, especially in the Japanese culture, as she talks about it. Tidying is the picking up. It's the everything in its place. It's the keeping things neat. Cleaning is the actual act of scrubbing and wiping and removing dirt and dust and just making things shine. So that if you think about them those two different ways, this first step is preparing to clean is about tidying. I think of this as the place for everything and everything in its place, as your grandmothers and great-grandmothers talked about, is that if everything in your home has its own home, a place where it belongs, then you never wonder where it is. I used to be the kind of person that would lose my keys or my purse or my anything. I lost things all the time because I would just set them down. I didn't have a home for them. And I have since learned over time that it's so important. It seems, I know to some people it seems too structured, or they don't want to think through it, or they may not feel like they have time to think through this. But I am telling you, if you will do this, if you will make a home for things, and just start with something important like your keys. But if you will do this, you will be amazed at the amount of time you save, because you know where it always is. And it also helps, so if something is missing, you know that it wasn't you that put it somewhere else. And everyone knows where those items are. Now, this isn't possible for every single thing in your home, but for the majority of things, it is. Tidying is about having a home for everything that you own. It actually, and Marie Kondo again talks about this, it makes your home feel more peaceful. Now, she is a Shinto, she's part of the Shinto religion, and they really have this kind of personification of items and of nature. And we may not all, have those beliefs, but there is a feeling that goes with having things where they belong. There's just a sense of security that your family might feel that just is in your home, because everything has a place where it will return to. So that is a powerful thing. For me, at least it has been. Another thing that goes along with that is to keep things in places where you use them. Put things, and I've read this in many organizing books, put things where it makes sense. If you say you're organizing your kitchen, You don't want to have your baking supplies on one side of the kitchen and your mixer on the other side. If you bake, you want your baking supplies by your mixer where you're going to bake, which is probably somewhere near the stove, so that you have a little area. This is actually something kindergarten teachers do in their classrooms, and they are trained to do, is to keep like things together. Here's the painting station. Here's the toy station. Here's the number station. And here's the book station, like the reading station. It just makes things easier for the children to know where things are. And this is true of all humans. So don't put your keys, maybe you might have, oh, this key hanger would look cute by my front door, so I'm going to put it here. But maybe you always go out your door to your garage. So it doesn't make sense to have things in a place where you don't use them. So this is where this will help inform where you should put things. And if you don't already do it, it's pretty, it's some common sense. But this girl, I didn't used to have that kind of common sense. And I would just kind of put things willy-nilly. But since learning this and doing this, it has made things so much easier for my whole family if things are put where it makes sense for them to be, where they are used. Okay, now the next thing, and I think every mother or homemaker, whether you're a mom or a dad, Mr. Mom or just a mom at home or a working mom, is that we tidy as we go because it makes things easier. I actually saw a pretty funny meme this weekend. It was Halloween weekend, this past weekend, and someone had done a video of what a mom would do when being chased by insert evil Halloween movie scary guy, whatever, whether it's Jason or Freddy Krueger or whoever. And it showed the mom running from the scary guy in her house. But as she was running, she was tidying. She was picking up dirty laundry off the floor. She was grabbing that plate that was on the counter and taking it over to the sink and picking things up as she went. Now, if you are like me, before I go to bed at night, I am guilty of this often. And my husband always laughs at me. But are you coming to bed? Yes, I'm coming to bed. But on the way there, I'm going to drop this off in the sink and I'm going to pick that trash up and throw it away. And I'm going to put a load in the laundry and I'm going to, that's something I do. I don't know if you do it, but I think we get in the habit oftentimes, especially when we don't have a lot of big chunks of hours in our day to clean, is I know when I am at home, I try and tidy where I can. And so constant tidying can become a way of life, and it actually can be a real blessing. I know the Fly Lady calls it blessing your family. She sets a timer for 15 minutes and just does a quick pickup in some area. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But it is a blessing because honestly, when you care for your home and you are the main homemaker or one of the main homemakers, one of the parents, one of the adults usually, you can usually see things that other members of your household might not. They just can't really see it. It's not something that bothers them, but when it bothers you, then you want to clean it up. You want to tidy it. You want to put things right where they go. So constant tidying can be a good thing. Now, of course, we don't want it to go crazy and take us off track. But if you are going from point A to point B, you can probably find a few things to clean up, right? I know I was given a tip by another fellow, by a lady I knew in a neighborhood I lived in one time. And we used to get our kids together and we'd talk and while they played, excuse me. And she said that something her mother taught her that she did was whenever she was in her bathroom and washing her hands, she would take a minute and she would, while her hands are wet and soapy, she would kind of rub down the faucet. And then when she rinsed her hands, she would kind of rinse the faucet. And I always thought that's kind of, it's a little bit, you could get a little OCD on things like this. But to me, I don't really have time to get out all my cleaners and clean my bathroom every day. But there are a few things I can do. When my husband and I get out of the shower, before getting out, we squeegee down the inside of our shower. It seems like, especially if you're in a hurry, that it might be taking too much time, but honestly, it doesn't take much time at all. It just takes a moment. And some little things like that can make a difference. Okay, so every day we have things we need to do, things we need to take care of. We should do our best to manage those things. And as I said before, we shouldn't procrastinate. These things take less time than we think. Maybe when you're going to bed, you could grab a rag real quick and dust your nightstand just before you get into bed. And it doesn't have to be every day, but where you see a need, do those things that you can do. Okay, so along with that and that idea of don't procrastinate, we always make, at least I do, I can manage to make little tasks seem much bigger than they are. There's a phrase that actually hails back to Mark Twain where it talks about, if you have to eat a frog, this is roughly what he said. If you have to eat a frog every morning, don't let it sit too long, or you will have to sit and look at it. So there's lots of different people that talk about time management, that talk about eating the frog. And this is what they're talking about, is do the thing that you don't want to do right away. We can look at things and put it off and put it off, and pretty soon it grows into this enormous task. But then when we actually will just do it, it will take much less time than we think. Another part of this is to find the rewards in what you're doing. I have a firm belief that there is a built-in reward for when you clean your house, or when you do even one little thing. Say you just unload the dishwasher. You get this gift of endorphins in our brains, create these hormones that give us this little jolt of dopamine that makes us feel, you know, I'm pretty cool. It's like a built-in reward system. And sometimes have you noticed, if you just will step in and do something you've been avoiding doing, all of a sudden you think, I could do this, or I could do this, I could go whatever it is. And you start to realize that you do have more energy than you thought you did, or you do have more capabilities, or maybe you have those things you thought would take a long time are only taking a few minutes. And you can do them and get a little reward for doing those things. Another thing is to just find the joy in work. We often avoid work, especially in our modern times, when honestly, accomplishing something that you can see with your eyes makes a difference, even if you know it's going to get undone very soon or won't stay that way. But even just accomplishing something gives us joy. Another thing I alluded to earlier is serving. Sometimes just thinking, I am going to do this little thing as an act of service. Now, you can't do it expecting to get a reward from, or a thank from that person that maybe you did something for. Maybe you put your spouse's underwear away. You know, maybe you helped with laundry and you just put their underwear away because you had a minute and it was a kind thing you could do. They may never even notice, and often they don't. But you can feel a little reward and a little bit of joy knowing that you have served someone else. And there's a lot to be said of that. I think that a lot of people discount, but honestly, service is a great reward. Another thing that has to do with not procrastinating is we need to avoid distractions. We live in a world full of distractions. I am probably one of the worst violators of this, and it's something I have been working on for years, still have not completely conquered. But sometimes at the end of the day, we just want to turn our brains off and just sit and scroll on social media, or watch a video or two on YouTube, or do all kinds of things just to distract us. A little distraction is not horrible, of course. But I don't know about you, but when I start to get distracted, I will find that an hour goes by, or 2 hours go by, or more. And I have wasted precious time that I really don't have, that could honestly be put to better use, even if it's just to hang out with my kids or go have a discussion with my husband. Those things are much more important. And it doesn't have to be a big deal. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. But sometimes looking for a distraction, looking for something that will help us reset our minds actually causes us more problems than it creates good. So that's something to consider. Okay, the other thing, and we have talked about this in both of our other classes, is this is where habits and routines come into play. All the things that we've discussed about daily routines or weekly schedules, this is where they come into play. If you can put your life on autopilot through the use of habits and routines, you will save time, you will save thought processes, you will have a system that works for you rather than you feeling burdened by all that you have to do but aren't doing. Let them serve you, put them in action, and let them help you. Okay, so we're going back to the hotel, right? And the maids and how they clean. First, they prepared for cleaning, which is in my book, tidying up, right? The next thing they do in these hotel rooms is they empty all trash bags and then they replace the bags. They also remove all the linens out of the bathrooms and off the beds. Now, we can think of this specifically, and you could do this every day, but it's just something, what can you do in a room every day that is simple? I mean, that's something that makes a huge difference. I know when I send my kids in to clean their bedrooms, or I usually have to go in and help them. They do kind of tidy up, but if I want it really clean, I usually have to take some time. And this is for me on a weekend, or maybe even it may have to wait for a school break. But I will go and I will say, okay, there are 3 things that we do when I help my kids clean the room. First of all, I make sure they have a trash bag in the room. Now, usually their trash can is probably overflowing, but kids always have trash in their rooms. The second thing they also always have is clothing. And you can kind of say linens, can kind of go with that. But usually for my kids, the 2 things on their floor more than anything else. And now part of this is we have a playroom, so that's where the toys belong. It's not where they always are. But the garbage and the clothes, those are the 2 big things. Okay. So if we can just do something like that, say we walk in a room and all we're going to do is pick up the trash. Imagine, and this isn't just for a messy kids room, say it's just your living room. You do a quick glance around the room and you take care of any trash. That can go a long way to making things tidier. Okay. So the next thing they do in a hotel room is they make the bed. Now, I know we talked a bit about this in our first class about the power of having a made bed every morning. And it's really just symbolic. You can do it. I know it helps me to have a clean bed because it's one thing that stays done. It doesn't get undone until I climb into it at night, unless my little granddaughters have climbed on it, but they haven't done that in a while. So if you have children or grandchildren, you know that those kind of things can be effective. But usually a made bed stays made until the end of the day. So if you can find little things that you can do, little accomplishments that you know are not going to be undone by the end of the day. Say, dusting. I'm going to dust this particular piece of furniture. It will most likely stay dusted until tomorrow, right? So it's one little thing you've done. So just find something that we can succeed at. A little success is important. Okay, the next thing a maid service does is that they do what they call dust and damp wiping. So when they do this, this is cleaning surfaces. This is dusting surfaces. This is wiping down surfaces, polishing them. They always start from the top to the bottom. So you know what gravity is, and dust always falls down, right? Eventually, right? It might even go poof, but it's going to come down. So you don't want to scrub your floors and then in the same room go and dust a ceiling fan. So that would be foolish, right? You'd be doing the dusting twice. You'd be cleaning the floor twice, right? So they always go from top to bottom. They clean the highest things and they dust them and they wipe those down and they move down. So always think top to bottom. Another thing that they do when they're cleaning spaces is that they go in a circular pattern around the room so that they make sure they cover everything. So they may start at the doorway and go around. It doesn't really matter if you go clockwise or counterclockwise. And this spans the whole of the room. Okay, it's not just around the edges, right? This needs to be throughout the whole room. Okay, but if you know you started on the right, then you know you're going to end on the left. And that room, you know, you have swept through that whole room, and you know that each surface that you've gone through is clean. Okay, so again, it can be clockwise, it can be counterclockwise. Another thing they do is they constantly look at the details. They are inspecting their work as they go. And this just takes a little extra of a keen eye. It's not that hard. Now, something that I love about cleaning, and I really, truly, honestly miss about the hours of cleaning I used to be able to do in a day, is the idea that I can think about my life, about our family, about anything on my mind, because cleaning doesn't take a lot of brain power, right? So cleaning is a great time. Say you want to read more, but you don't have a lot of time. But say you have a certain amount of time that you plan to clean each week. Well, what if you listened to an audiobook, a book that you've always wanted to read or felt like you should read or have heard about and just have never quite done it? Listen to an audiobook. It makes the time go quicker. It makes the job feel easier. I know a lot of homemakers in this day and age listen to podcasts, and that might be something that would be good. So you can do those kinds of things as you are inspecting your details and as you are doing your work. If you're worried that work is just too boring, oh, this is boring and I don't want to do it. If you have something to look forward to, sometimes that can help. So I know that I really like to do those kinds of things when I'm cleaning. Okay, the next thing that a maid service will do is, especially this is true in the bathroom, is that they will spray every surface and then they let it sit. They call it spray and let it sit. So if you think about it, you've cleaned anything, including dishes or anything else in your life, in any amount, you know and have learned that often soaking something helps make the process much more efficient. So when you soak something, when you spray down a bathroom and walk away to go do something else, you are letting those cleaners do their job. You're letting them, the wet surface, kind of loosen up any gross things that might be there, right? You're letting it do its job. And so this is a very efficient way to do things. Now, you have to be careful that you don't leave it too long, that you have a set, maybe order would help to know that you're going to come back to that, right? But soaking and letting it sit often can really help you. One part of this that I feel is that you should also, maybe you spray your bathroom down, then you might want to go get some liquid soap and restock. You might want to check your toilet paper, right? Your other supplies and mentionables that you might need in the bathroom. You might want to make sure that the towels are clean. I know it's a great thing to do to just kind of, everybody loves to use a clean towel, especially if it's just like a hand towel. Those get used a lot. So you may want to change it every other day or every day. Of course, you don't need to change it as much as a hotel would, just because they have new guests every day. But restocking, checking those supplies, that's something you can do while you're waiting, while things are soaking. Then once you've got that done and you feel like it's had enough time to soak, then you go in and wipe things down. Now, I have a friend that used to clean people's houses for a living, and she told me, because she was talking to me about my girls possibly cleaning houses. They were doing a little bit of that too. And she said one thing that she found that almost everyone wanted when she cleaned a bathroom was to have the sink fixtures, the faucet and the fixtures, shiny. Now, that doesn't seem like a big deal, but it actually made a big difference in how her clients felt about her cleaning job. Even if she scrubbed everything else and it was perfect, if she didn't shine the faucet, then they didn't feel like it was totally clean. So if you need something to feel like your bathroom is just that little bit, that little extra, maybe after you've, kind of wiped down the faucet when you're washing your hands, get a cloth or something and just shine it. And it makes it feel a little bit better. I know if you have followed Fly Lady at all or used her system, one of the things she talks about is having a shiny sink. Now, I did this for a while. I found it didn't really work for me, but I know it works for many people. She goes to bed every night with a shiny sink, meaning not only is her sink empty, but she polishes it and shines it. She has a stainless steel sink. And she would scrub it so that it was clean. And then she would put out a fresh, clean dish towel for the next morning. And so she could wake up and know that at least, if nothing else was clean, her sink was shiny and clean. So that's another idea you could try. Now, the next thing, the last thing a maid service does in a hotel room is to vacuum the floors. Remember, top to bottom? So the floors were the bottom. And this I think included mopping in the bathroom as well. So they would mop, you start in the far corner and mop your way out of the room, right? So you don't step on it or make any new messes, and so that it has that chance to dry. Well, the same idea they use for vacuuming. They start from the far side of the room and work across and then back their way out of the doorway, and it is the last thing that they do. Now, I know that I have moved way too many times than most people should ever move. I have beat out military families. I'm telling you, we have moved way too much. But the last thing I do when I'm cleaning a house, whenever I move out, is I mop myself out of the door or I vacuum myself out of the door. And it just feels good to leave that space, no footprints, no marks, it's ready to go. So these are just ideas. Remember, this is what a maid service in a hotel does. And so if you can take some of these principles or think about some of these things, you don't have to follow these steps. This is not saying that this is how you do clean correctly. These are just some ideas for more efficient cleaning. And maybe it will help you in your efforts in your home. Okay, so the very next part is to have a plan. And when I say have a plan, I mean use systems. Use the systems that work for you. Now, of course, we talked about routines being part of a system. We talked about a daily schedule, scheduling your week as a system. It can be a very powerful thing to say, today is so-and-so's day to do the laundry. And we're going to talk about laundry systems in a future course. But just trying different systems. Maybe you already have a system that has worked in the past and maybe you abandoned it. You could try it again. Maybe your mom had a system, or your aunt had a system, or your sister had a system, or your brother had a system, or your friend at work has a system, or someone talks about things that have worked for them. It's okay to try new things. It's also okay to reject things and say, I know that system wouldn't work for me, but this one might. So use your best judgment on that. Having a plan and using systems does take some discipline. But having that structure, remember, letting your habits serve you instead of you serving your habits can be a powerful thing. Those automatic habits that you do make everything easier in your home. Make everything easier in your life. You know this. We all know this, right? There's all habits that we know help us. So if you can get into some cleaning routines, say you have decided this week in your weekly planning. I know for me, I'll use myself as an example. I am gone to class every day. I am usually gone until after 6 at night. Now, often I don't need to be on campus until 11:30, but sometimes I have to be there earlier, but I'm usually there. My last classes get done at 5:30. So, and that's not every day, but I do not have time to come home and clean my house. And I usually don't have a lot of time in the morning. I do have homework and other things too. But I can check in on my children with their stewardships. And I can say, all right, this Saturday, I'm going to deep clean this room. And then next Saturday, I might work with this child on cleaning this bedroom. It's not that we have to be perfect. We just need to start having a plan, right? So those routines can help us. Now, I want to say a word about delegation. I once had a very wise woman who had a large family, who greatly influenced my cleaning habits and how I do things. She said, if you are a full-time mother and you are still doing all the cleaning in your home, you're doing something wrong. Now, she said, she was basically saying that you should be a manager in your home, that you shouldn't be the only one doing everything. Now, of course, as we said earlier, there's something to be said about serving our family, and mom standards or dad standards are very different than 5-year-old child standards, right? So you can help where you can, but you can also do your family a service by teaching them. And we talked about this extensively last time, but I wanted to remind you again. Sometimes breaking your home into zones or areas or assigning rooms to a certain child on a certain day can really help. For some reason, having a chore with somebody's name on it on a piece of paper on the wall makes that assignment powerful. And it also helps you as the homemaker not be the bad guy. Why do I have to clean the living room? Well, because that's the assigned job on the chart. As much as my children have tried to, they've never been able to argue with the chart or the menu. It's there. And for some reason, it's like magic. If it's on paper, if it's been printed and out of the computer, it is law. And they go, oh, I have to do bathroom this week or whatever the assignment is. Now, we don't give assignments that often. I usually will do mine at the end of a semester. I'll usually redo it based on who's home and what's going on. But don't discount delegation. Make sure that you are not the only one. Make sure that you are managing your home, but you are not doing everything. Okay, enough about that. Now, I do want to mention, I said something about my apron earlier. I have what I call my mom uniform. And I think we touched on this before, but you could have your homemaker uniform. Okay, so guys, don't feel like you have to wear an apron, although there's some very manly aprons, and that's great. But to me, and your mileage may vary, but for me, I feel more like my job as a homemaker is a seriously taken job. I take it more seriously personally when I am dressed and ready to go. This is a principle that Fly Lady talks about, and she makes very important in her morning routines, is if you get up and you get dressed, she calls it dressed to the shoes, meaning she says you should get up in the morning and have shoes on. Once you have your shoes on, you can do anything. And I guess I do this, but I do this more with makeup. For me, because I am an older student hanging out with 20-somethings or younger every day, I wear makeup every day in order to feel good about myself. I dress up a little bit every day as a student. I don't wear sweatpants. I don't wear like yoga pants. And now there are days I do, okay? There are days I do, but not when going to school, because I want to take my job as a student seriously. That's just how I feel. Your mileage may vary, but come up with some kind of mom uniform for you. It could be yoga pants and your favorite sweatshirt, but make it something that makes you feel like you mean business, that you are really going to do what needs to be done. For me, that includes an apron. If I am doing something in my home, and especially, as I said, because I like to dress a little nicer, I wear an apron because I don't want my nice clothes to get dirty. I know it's really funny. The generation that I grew up in, our mother's generation, they saw aprons as just this symbol of women being put down or held down by being a mother. And that was a totally different generation. And so aprons were not really something that our mother's generation, my mother's generation, really thought was great. They kind of thought that was an eye-rolling, silly thing. But in the years since, I've noticed that this next generation and my generation, at least me, find that apron is just a tool. Okay, it's not a grandiose symbol about the oppression of women. It's just a tool. I want my clothes to stay nice, and an apron helps me do that. It also makes me feel like what I'm doing is a serious business, that I am cleaning. Here I am, I'm ready to cook anything, I'm ready to clean anything, I'm ready to do what needs to be done in the home. So that's all I'm going to say about aprons, but to me, that's part of my uniform. Okay, something else that I want to mention is we talked about the Caddy earlier, of our cleaning supplies. Do not feel that you have to use the cleaning supplies that your mom did, or don't feel like you have to use the cleaning supplies that all the cool ladies or gents on Pinterest are using or Instagram. Okay, I have tried some of those supplies and I didn't like them, right? They were really stinky, they were too strong, I didn't like them. Okay, if you find something you like, use that and stock up on it. When you go to the store, make sure you have the cleaning supplies that you need so that you don't have an excuse when it's time to clean and say, oh, I forgot to get this. Just make sure it's on your shopping list. If you know you're going to need magic erasers every week because Junior is an artist and loves a certain wall with his crayons, you're going to want magic erasers, right? Or if you have a favorite cleaner that you like, that it smells to you, it smells good. And when you clean with that cleaner, you feel like your house is clean. Remember, we talked about that ideal house at the beginning and the smells. Maybe that's one of your smells. You have this favorite cleaner. For me, I have this cleaner I love that smells like lavender. That's my favorite. It makes me feel like my house is clean. And it's just a little thing for me that I do. Okay. Now, another thing I do when I'm cleaning, and I've kept the music on. I don't know if you've totally been able to hear it, but I've kind of kept the music on through today's class. It's some of my favorite music. I like to put on uplifting music when I need to clean. Now, this to me is like some people that are really into working out. I'm sorry, I'm not one of those people, but you might be. And they are constantly looking for music to keep them pumped up, right? Say you're a runner, you want certain music to keep you motivated and keep you going. And I do that for cleaning. And I've done it for my children too. We will turn on music. Okay, we're gonna Saturday clean. That's what my mom always called it. So Saturday clean was like the deep clean. So we're gonna Saturday clean, and I'm gonna turn on the peppy music that maybe I don't listen to all the time because it can get obnoxious, right? Whether that's music from movies or their favorite show or whatever it is. Or I might have mine that makes me have this get up and go. That helps me as well. Another big tip, now this is one of the most important things I think I ever got from Fly Lady, is to set a timer. Find a little kitchen timer. Oh man, they are super cheap, right? You can get them super cheap. Or it could even be on your stove or whatever, or your phone. Hello, we have them on our phones now. I always forget that, but we have them on our phones, right? And she does something called a 5-minute tidy, or she also does what she calls a hotspot rescue, I think. But she will set a timer. Say you have a messy room and you might have 15 minutes, right? You might have just a few minutes of time. So let's say that you have a surface. This is what she calls a hotspot, that it's a stackable surface that things just kind of build on. Maybe somebody puts some mail down there, and then in the next hour or two, a kid leaves a toy there. And then maybe you left a rag or something, and pretty soon this hotspot is aflame with clutter, right? So she sets a timer, and it could be for 5 minutes, it could be for 15 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever you feel. And she will just set the timer and she will erase the timer. And let's see what we can put away, right? You can do this in any room, and you can do it for any length of time. We talked about this, I think in our first class, is I would, at the end of the day, like to set a timer with my children and say, okay, Dad's gonna be home in half an hour. What could we get done in this living room in half an hour? And then set a timer. There's even some fun timer apps that you can get on your phone. My kids love this one. I can't even remember what it's called, but it's for kids. And so it plays this goofy song that's actually pretty annoying, but it has like this clock face. And as the time goes, it reveals more of a picture. And so by the end of the timer, there's a picture, woo, and they get to see the picture. I have no idea why it's exciting. They think it's so fabulous. Mom, can we use the timer on your phone? But you can use it too, right? You use your own timer. Everybody needs motivation now and then. And so even if that's all you can do in a day is a 15-minute quick pickup or a 5-minute quick pickup, think of the difference it can make in your home. That's just one little thing you can do that makes your house better. It doesn't take a lot of time, doesn't take a lot of effort, and you have a little victory there, and it makes a difference. Okay, so plan a short tidy session or two during the day. Or if you just have a spare minute, set a timer, see what you can do. Okay, one last big subject for me. And I know that not everybody feels this way, and it can be hard for people. But to me, and this has helped me a lot, the less we own, the less we need to take care of. Now, there's a whole minimalist movement, and I understand all of that. Now you can see I'm not a minimalist. But I like to think that I have improved over time. I've been a severe pack rat. Clutter can form very easily around me. But I have also found that I don't love to clean stuff. And so if I look at something and I think, okay, should I keep it or should it go? I think, do I want to clean that? Okay, I like certain knickknacks. Do I want to dust that every week? Or if I don't dust it, do I want to feel guilty because I haven't dusted that thing in a month or whatever it is? These are the kinds of questions that are actually really worth asking ourselves. We do not need to be a slave to the things that we own. We don't need to keep things because someone gave it to us or because we feel guilty that we spent so much money on it, or I might be able to use it someday. We should look at things and think about whether they are serving us or making our lives harder. Do you really want to keep track of that? Do you want to have to inventory that item? Heaven forbid if you have to move, do you want to pack that item? Do you really want to take the time? Now you might think, but I love that one thing. Well, then if you really love it, keep it, of course. But if you've ever watched like the show Hoarders, which it's not my favorite show, but I have seen a few episodes, those little things add up big time. And if you have 10 of those, but I really love it things, think of all the work that you are giving yourself by needing to take care of that. So think about that. Now, of course, I'm not going to say you need to get rid of everything you want. No. But if you've ever been in a vacation home, think back to that vacation home or a hotel. It's kind of refreshing. You walk in there, you have what you need. There's nothing there that is more than what you need unless you brought it in there in your suitcase, right? There's just enough silverware. Say if you are in a vacation home, there's just enough sheets, there's just enough towels. There's not any extraneous stuff. There's not clutter, right? Because they don't want to take care of all that stuff, right? So think about what that feels like. Think about ways that maybe your home could be a little bit more like a vacation home if you got rid of some things. Okay, work smarter, not harder. The goal is not to prove how much cleaning you can do. The goal is to use your systems to make your life easier. Now, one more word about decluttering, and I'm almost done here, is I have a friend that I greatly admire, and she lives in another state from me. I haven't actually seen her in quite some time, but I was always very impressed and intrigued by her because she was a person that would say no. Now, I'm a person who has a very difficult time saying no to things, but that was the first thing that intrigued me about her. And at first I kind of thought, she doesn't like us. We were part of a homeschool co-op and she just kind of stopped doing things. And I thought, She doesn't like us. What's not to like? I mean, this is so fun. This is so great. This is so wonderful for our kids. As I got to know her better over the years, I found that she is a minimalist type person, but I wanted to find out more about this. And we were preparing for a big move out of state. And I really wanted to know more. So I got permission. She invited me over and was gracious enough to let me come in her home. She took me throughout her house. And I wrote down several thoughts after, and I'm not going to share all of them with you, but I sat in my car afterwards, stunned at how simple and beautiful her life was. She prayed over everything. Now, I'm not saying you need to do that. And I honestly, I don't. I do wish I prayed a little bit more over things, but she seriously considered everything in her home. Nothing was trivial. She considered it, and she let go of things. She found that there were things that she didn't really want to have, and she knew people that she could borrow things from, say canning supplies or sewing machine. You know, she didn't do it that often. And that was something that intrigued me. And I learned from her, and it greatly affected my decisions as I packed. These books, I was reading them at the same time. They also impacted me. And we had what I now call the Great Purge. I got rid of bags and bags of extra clothing, which made my laundry life so much easier. I got rid of hobbies I'd been hanging on to that I hadn't actually done for years, but I had spent all this money on it. And so I felt guilty. And instead I decided to get rid of it and bless someone else who really had time for that. So when you approach your cleaning, as you look around your home, think, do I like taking care of this? Do I really like dusting this? And if you do, that's great. If something brings you joy, which Marie Kondo talks about, if it sparks joy, keep it. But give it a home, give it a place, give it a chance. Another great resource I'd like to mention is The Gentle Art of Swedish Death Cleaning. This is a book. There's some things in the book that are a little strange, some, that I didn't really like, but the idea of letting people who can appreciate things use them instead of you just hoarding them and dusting them is a great thing. Gifting things to people before you're gone. It has an interesting concept to consider. So this week's assignment, I would like you to finish that assignment that I mentioned at the beginning of this class, which is to think of your ideal home space. Now, if all you do is get a piece of paper and write it down, here it is. I had to find it. Make a list of what you see, what you hear, what you smell, what you taste, what you touch, feel. See, this is not much. This is a small little list. You could just do that if you want to be super simple. If you want to spend a little time, you could make a Pinterest board, or you could even make a poster board and cut out magazines or whatever it is you want to do. You could go tour a friend's house like I did, my dear friends, that inspired me. But come next in 2 weeks. So not this week, because I haven't given you very much time to do this assignment. But in 2 weeks, we're going to share our experiences that we've had with this. And if it made a difference. Because there's a psalm in the Bible that says, where there is no vision, the people perish. If you want to have a home that is comfortable and peaceful, that makes you happy to be there and makes your family comfortable and peaceful and happy to be there, you may want to have that vision of what it is you're creating. And if you do, and you work toward it, I guarantee someday you will experience that peace and that ideal situation that you seek. So there's your assignment. Thank you so much for class this week. I hope some of these efficient cleaning tips help you, and I hope you have a wonderful week, and we will see you soon for our lesson number 4. Bye-bye.